Hey everyone, I'm releasing this video on July 4th, and I'm doing so because I want to talk to you about the holiday, Independence Day in America, or as my co-host Lindsay on Boy Meets Squirrel likes to call it, National Traitors Day. It just cracks me up every single time she says it. And what I want to talk to you guys about is what the holiday really is about and how we as men can learn from it and then use what we learn to address some of the issues that we face. Because for me, July 4th isn't just about fireworks. It's not just about cookouts or waving the flag and then calling it a day, though to be sure I do all of those things and more. But what it's really about is celebrating us as men, ordinary men like you and me, who choose to stand up to tyranny, stand up against a system that is stacked against them, stand up against rulers who see men as disposable, voiceless, and powerless. The parallels from back then, back in 1776 to now, are amazing when you think about it. But what's different is back then in 1776, those men said, no more. Today, well, most men are sitting and taking it. And it's not like they were any better than us back then. They really were no different than us, other than they had the balls to stand up and fight back. Balls that, I'm sorry to say, most men these days completely lack. Those men back then were, as I said, ordinary men just like you and me. They were farmers, blacksmiths, fathers and husbands, merchants. You get the idea. They weren't perfect men. They certainly weren't privileged men. But they were men who finally decided they'd had enough, and they risked everything. Their property, their freedom, their very lives. And for some of those men, their families never saw them again. Why? Why did they do all that? Because there comes a moment in a man's life when he realizes that silence is no longer an option. When enduring abuse and injustice becomes more dangerous than standing up to it. And my brothers, for us men today, that time needs to be now. For far too long, we men have been beaten down by a culture that calls us toxic simply because we exist. A court system that has no problem ripping our children from our living arms without any reason or cause. A society that tells us to man up when we cry and then turns around and blames us when we break. And of course, a media that portrays us every single day as villains, buffoons, or abusers, never once showing us as heroes, never once showing us as victims, not even showing us as human beings. And it's why, like those heroes, those brave men, those revolutionaries back in 1776, we too have a decision to make. Do we do what we've been doing and stay silent? Or do we stand up and fight? Call out the misandry. Call out the injustice. Call out the toxicity that's directed at us, literally from the time we're born till the day we die. Are we going to keep pretending, keep trying to fool ourselves into thinking it's just going to get better on its own? Are we going to keep making excuses, keep crying and whining and doing nothing because, we can't possibly win? Are we going to keep being defeatists? Or do we finally rise up, speak out, and fight? One of the greatest men ever, who was part of that revolution some 250 years ago, was Thomas Jefferson. You might have heard of him. And he once wrote something that honestly has resonated with me for years. Something I hope will resonate with you. He said, when a long train of abuses and usurpations evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such a government. Powerful words and something we should be taking inspiration from. Because although we aren't fighting against a king and maybe not fighting muskets and redcoats, we are fighting a different kind of tyranny. The tyranny of false allegations. The tyranny of family courts that treat fathers like criminals by default. The tyranny of laws and policies written to benefit everyone but us. The tyranny of a culture that shames masculinity while depending on it every single day. But here's the good news. History tells us how this ends if we stand together. When we as men stand together, when we refuse to be shamed, when we demand fairness, dignity, and the basic inalienable rights we were born with, well, my friends, when we do that, the world will change. Happened in 1776. It can happen in 2025 and 2026. So this July 4th, don't just raise a flag. Raise your voice. Speak out for men. Speak out for the fathers who can't see their children. Stand up for young men being told they're broken just because they happen to be born male. Fight for yourselves, your brothers, your sons, your future, their future. Because freedom isn't free, my friends. It wasn't given to us. It was earned by men who decided one day to say, enough. Let's honor them today, not with silence, but with courage. The revolution isn't over. It's just getting started.